Lord, for you as you continue to put your faith in Him. Do you understand your commitment today? Casper, do you understand and accept this responsibility, and do you promise to do your very best each day to create a loving, healthy, and happy marriage? If yes, say, I do. Rose, do you understand and accept this responsibility, and do you promise to do your very best each day to create a loving, healthy, and happy marriage? If yes, say, I do. See, Rose and Casper, you understood if we've been talking together, as we've had some counseling time before this day, we understand now that marriage has less to do with finding the right person and has more to do with becoming the right person. It's not something done overnight, though. You both understand that. You will grow into the fullness of Christ as He helps guide you by His precious Holy Spirit. The verse that you guys shared with me in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 is the verse that you put on your marriage guide today. It is called the love chapter. But understand, it's not a romantic love. It's more of a commitment of God's love towards us that we can therefore give to each other. As beautiful as that chapter is, I want you to understand that it's more than just a feeling. This love that Paul speaks about in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 is a love of behavior. We exercise even when we don't feel the feelings. Listen to Paul's words in verse 4. He says, love is patient. Love is kind. See, sometimes you'll be stressed out. Sometimes you'll be frustrated. But remember, love is patient. Love is kind. Sometimes you might want to even give harsh criticism to each other when your spouse does something foolish or hurtful, even to you. But remember, love is patient. Love is kind. Whenever I have a hard time remembering that, it helps me to remember how Christ treats me. For many times I don't deserve His love, but the Father, through His Son Jesus Christ, continues to be patient and kind with me. You see, Paul's next advice as we go on in verse 13 says, Paul says to avoid arrogance and rudeness. Paul knows that sometimes we treat those we love with less courtesy than even strangers. We may take our spouse for granted. Occasionally we may be rude to them in private or even worse, in public. Paul would argue that we strive to treat our spouse with reverence and respect, just like we would want ourselves to be treated. That we're to hold up our spouse as a precious gift that they are. It's in moments like this that's not easy to forget about. But as you grow in your marriage, sometimes through the days that you'll experience together, we lose sight of the gift that God has given to each other through each other. Of all the ideals that Paul holds up before us, the next one may be even the hardest. He goes on to say, love does not insist upon its own way. You see, Paul says that love is selfless, not selfish. That's something that this world has a hard time with, because many think in this world and society that we're living in today, that when you stop doing what I want you to do for me, I can then move on to someone else. But that's not what Paul tells us. That's not what God tells us. God tells us that love, true love, is selfless. Willing to lay down your lives for each other. Willing to endure hardships for each other. To say, no, I'm committed to you, no matter what happens in life. See, Paul sums up his beautiful description of love with these words. Love bears all things. Believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. In other words, love never gives up. Love holds on. Love says, I'm going to grab hold of you, and nothing, not even the depths of hell, can take you out of my grip, because I am choosing to love you. Now, doesn't that sound a lot like Christ with us? See, God has promised us to hold on to us, and that nothing can separate us from His love. Make that a strive for you to give to each other, that nothing would be able to separate you from loving your spouse. You see, this relationship stands for love, loyalty, honesty, and trust. God is creating a lighthouse for this whole world to see how He loves His church as He created marriage. But more importantly than even the trust and honesty of love, I want you to understand the friendship of love. You see, before you even knew that you loved each other, you became friends. And that friendship will hold you strong in the days to come. It was from the seed of friendship that became your destiny. You see, God treats us the same way. When He calls us